In the chat, if you haven't shared already, I'll share the prompt one more time. Your name, your role, your NRO, and what's a hobby or activity you enjoy doing. So I will do mine verbally. I am Taylor Kraus. I'm a UX designer on the Planet 4 team at GPI based in the Netherlands, and I really enjoy hiking. So thank you everyone for sharing yours as well. And today I'm going to be talking about utilizing user personas for engagement in Planet 4, and then specifically diving into the insights and driving decisions with dynamic user personas. So if you haven't done this and you still need this, I'll leave this up for a couple more seconds and then we'll dive into the presentation. All right, so here is the table of contents and what we'll be talking about today. I will start by answering what are user personas, then how to create them, and then we'll dive into a Planet 4 user persona project, and then our approach and methods for this project, diving into the actual personas that we created, how we are using these, and then we'll have an open floor for questions. If you do have any questions throughout the session, feel free to post that in the chat or come off of mute, and then again, we'll have questions at the end. So for this first part, we are getting into what are user personas. So user personas are fictional characters representing key traits of target audiences based on real user data to guide user-centered design decisions. This is based on research and analysis of real user data. So this is data on demographics, on behavior, motivations, goals, needs, and pain points. They are important for design and product teams as they provide a clear understanding of a target audience, which aids in creating user-centered designs, making informed product decisions, and ensuring that solutions meet the specific requirements of the intended users, leading to more effective and successful products. So what should a user persona include? They should typically include demographics, behavior patterns, and goals and pain points. So going into demographics, details such as age, occupation, location, and more can influence a user's needs and preferences. And by including these details, it can help for more tailored design strategies. I do want to mention that not all of these details are relevant for every user persona. You really need to identify what factors are important for your specific user base and what you're hoping to achieve. So, for example, maybe you find that your users are young college students living in areas heavily affected by pollution. Knowing their age helps you tailor content and communication that resonates with this age group. So maybe social media, maybe through videos, etc. And knowing that they are college students could indicate that they could be receptive to educational content. Knowing that they live in areas that are polluted means they have a personal stake in air quality and public health issues. So just an example of demographics here. Moving on to the middle one, behavior patterns. So this is insights into a user's typical activities, interests, technology use, and more. And these are important for creating designs that work for your users. So an example here could be users that are actively engaged in community organizing. Maybe they're interested in reading blogs and watching videos on YouTube about sustainable living, and you learn that they are a regular user of Facebook. In this particular example, all of these insights could be useful when thinking about how you engage your users and what types of mediums they prefer. It helps you to better understand how they act and how they receive information. And then lastly, we have goals and pain points. So understanding what users hope to achieve and what challenges they encounter help to create solutions that meet their needs. For an example here, maybe you learn that your users want to stay informed about current environmental issues and have easy access to resources and tools to take action, but they have difficulty navigating the website and they feel overwhelmed by the volume of environmental issues and don't know where to start. So you could potentially use this to design solutions that address this point specifically. Maybe you create a simplified navigation. So these are all just some examples that give you an idea of the findings you could uncover as part of user personas. And this just helps you better understand who your users are and what they need. Here are some examples of user personas. So these are not necessarily examples to follow. I just wanted to show a few different ideas of personas that I found online to show you how much they can vary. So they should typically include demographic information, as we just discussed, typically a picture that helps you really visualize that persona. Often they include a short bio, some goals, pain points, wants and needs, sometimes information about how they interact with products or services. It can also include their hobbies or a relevant quote that captures who they are. All of this to better understand them so that designers and the team can better empathize with users and their needs. So user personas can help to guide decision-making, they can help mitigate assumptions, and they can facilitate alignment across teams. I do want to mention there are some limitations. They can overgeneralize, they can be a static representation, and they can be resource intensive. So in order to address the first point on overgeneralization, you want to supplement persona development with additional qualitative and quantitative research methods, such as interviews, surveys, usability testing, and more. And these methods can provide a more nuanced understanding of user behaviors and preferences. The second point on static representation, you don't want your user personas to be a static representation. So this means regularly reviewing and updating your personas based on new data and insights that are gathered over time. This ensures that they remain accurate and reflective of evolving user needs and behaviors. And the last one on being quite resource intensive, it does take a lot of time to do research, data analysis, conduct qualitative and quantitative data, and then create your personas and refine them. So to address this, you just want to make sure you're being as efficient as possible and prioritizing those key results. And the last point on this slide that I want to note is that while they provide valuable guidance, they should not be treated as strict rules. They should be used as flexible tools that inform your decision-making rather than rigid templates that dictate your design choices. So now moving on to how do you actually create user personas? So as a first step, we have research and data collection. So you really want to define your project objectives. So understanding what is the purpose of your project? Are you looking to improve your website, enhance the user experience, something more specific, or maybe you want to take an exploratory approach and you just want to understand your users better. Whatever the case, this will help guide you along the way. And then you want to gather information on your target users from various sources. This would be market research, analytics data, user feedback, industry reports, and really digging into however you are tracking your users right now. You can then segment your users into distinct groups that share similarities. This could be based on characteristics, behaviors, needs, and then ultimately these groups will form the basis of your personas. Moving on to step 2, user interviews and engagement. You want to engage directly with your users through interviews, surveys, feedback, etc., to understand their needs, behaviors, goals, and challenges. And we also did a session on user interviews as a past Planet 4 design call. So if you want more insights into how to actually do these, you can check out the recording, which I will share in the chat in one moment. All right. And then moving on to data analysis and insights, you want to analyze the data that has been collected to identify patterns, trends, common themes, and these will all provide insights into your target audience. You want to organize the data, so you want to gather all of your research findings and organize them in a structured manner. You want to identify those key insights where you are reviewing your data to identify common themes, and you want to start developing detailed profiles. Then moving on to step 4, creating your persona. So you want to develop your user persona based on the insights gained from your research and analysis. For each segment, you want to create a persona profile. This includes details like demographics, behaviors, goals, motivations, and challenges. And then you want to develop a narrative or a story that brings each persona to life. This could include scenarios or use cases that illustrate how they would interact with your product in real life. Then you want to define the persona attributes, create and fill in persona templates, and validate these personas with your team. And lastly, we have iterate, implement, and repeat. So by continuously refining, iterating, and adapting personas based on continual feedback, you can keep your personas relevant and they can remain as impactful tools. So you want to incorporate any feedback that you get and update them. You want to integrate them into your workflows. So this is integrating them into your design, but as well as your marketing and your development processes, and use them as a reference point when you're making decisions. And then again, on that continuous improvement, just continue refining and iterating them as needed. And then to use them effectively, you want to incorporate them into every stage of the design process, from brainstorming to testing. So next we will get into the Planet 4 user persona project. So I think several of you who are on the call either are part of Planet 4 or are familiar with it, but if there's anybody who isn't, you might be wondering, who are we? So Planet 4 is used as a CMS tool by many NROs as their primary web presence. It's built on WordPress, and there are now over 50 websites and growing in 35 different languages. This is a snapshot of our team. We are a global team that builds and maintains the platform and supports NROs with a range of needs, and our team includes members in product design, data development, and community. So our team did a user persona project in order to understand who our users are and how we can best meet their needs. So we set out to create new user personas of our backend users, our front-end users, and our non-human user personas. So these are our users as the Planet 4 team. So number one are backend users, which includes Planet 4 community members who edit and administrate Planet 4 on the backend. Then we have our front-end users, who are users that visit any Planet 4 website. These would be your users as well. And then we have our non-human users, which includes any form of life. So plants, animals, etc., anything that Planet 4 impacts. And this concept comes from life-centered design, which we will briefly cover in this session. So why did we decide to do this project? For us, it was time to update. So we had some data that related to our audience, but it was old, largely spanning from 2016 to 2019. Archetypes were created, but they were really no longer used. And it was also an opportunity for us to bring in a new design approach. So for the project overview, what we had to go off of, we had user interviews, audience research, market research, a GPI survey that was launched, and the archetypes that I mentioned, all of this largely going until about 2019. What we did for this project included secondary research, audience research, ecosystem mapping, a community survey, and several different interviews. And next, we will talk about our user persona project, approach, and methods. So we took a life-centered design approach to this project, and specifically for our non-human persona, so I wanted to share a brief explanation of life-centered design. Life-centered design is a design philosophy and approach that goes beyond human needs and puts life at the center of our creation. So it is an actionable design approach that gives designers and other creatives the mindset, opportunity, and ability to design holistically. It allows designers to include all life forms and advocates for biological ecosystems and non-user communities. It moves away from creating value for just the end user and shareholder towards adding value for nature and communities. So how did we use this for our user personas? We set out to create non-human personas and also to inform our entire front-end and back-end user persona process through life-centered design. So non-human personas are a way to create an emotional connection with nature and non-human entities through scientific research, creativity, and imagination. They are a way to understand the needs and perspectives of non-human actants. They help you create designs that include these actants. So part of life-centered design was ecosystem mind mapping, and this is used as a collaborative design process that allows you to explore the ecosystem in which your problem or project sits in. The Planet 4 team used this to understand how Planet 4 is embedded in a wider ecosystem, asking questions of what and who are impacted or touched by Planet 4. In this session, we asked questions around what natural resources might Planet 4 use. This could be from our commutes to our servers. We asked what Greenpeace causes could we consider as users, what other life around us is impacted by the work we do, and what communities are our users, our non-users, our team, or us as individuals a part of, and so on. So here you can see an example of the ecosystem mapping session we did, which was responding to those questions. And you'll see as we progress through this presentation that we ultimately chose to focus on water, on youth, and on non-native English speakers as part of this persona project. And we sent out a community survey to understand more about who our Planet 4 community is inside and outside of Greenpeace. We had 28 responses spanning across 18 countries. So what did we learn? We learned that 90% were millennials. The most used app was Instagram. Interests by and large were movies, hiking, and gaming. 75% used Planet 4 for over a year. Most used Planet 4 several times a week. They described themselves as calm, curious, and creative. Many were seeking a better UI and UX of their site. Some of the challenges they faced were limited features, capacity issues, and feeling that they were lacking creativity. And several were interested in making their site more youth-friendly. So through these surveys, we learned more about the Planet 4 community, and we wanted to dive more into those responses. And so 5 Planet 4 community members were interviewed and asked questions that dove into their role at Greenpeace, but also who they are and what their interests are outside of Greenpeace as well. So this helped to inform several of our backend user personas, which you'll see in a moment. We found that a lot are juggling many tasks at once. They largely all want to bring in more audiences, and some feel that WordPress and Planet 4 is easy to understand, whereas others feel it is very challenging. Next, we have our non-native English speakers. So 3 non-native English speakers were interviewed and asked questions around their background and experience working in an English dominant speaking organization. This helped to inform our non-native English speaker persona, which gave more insight into the challenges and struggles that these users face, both in how they go about their day-to-day work, but also in how many of our systems are designed in an English-centric way and don't always work for other languages. And lastly, we have youth. So 4 Gen Z youth who have an interest in social and environmental issues were interviewed and asked questions around their interests, how they consume information, and their values. This helped to inform our understanding of our youth audience, which many NROs are aiming to target. Many of these users felt that their own experience seeing climate change firsthand have inspired them to take action on climate change and other environmental and social issues. So next, I'm just going to briefly get into the audience research. So Molly from our Planet 4 team pulled some data from Google Analytics from June 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023 on our audience across Planet 4, looking at everything from age to gender to how our users are getting to our site. And this data is compared with what was pulled in the past in 2019 and what changes have been made since. So I won't get into all of this today, but it's very interesting, and I will also share a link to the presentation in a moment so you can have a further look if you're curious to see what else she had pulled there. All of this is prefaced with the fact that not all of the data that Google pulls on users is 100% accurate every time. So as you can see here, our top users across Planet 4 websites come from Brazil, followed by the US, Taiwan, and so on. Some other interesting findings is that almost 86% of our users as a whole are new users, and 14% are returning users. And then our typical user would be a female between the ages of 18 and 24 from Brazil coming through the site directly using a mobile Android. So I will just share this in the chat. Give me one moment. And so here is the presentation if you want to check that out further. All right, so let me move on over here. So pulling it all together, utilizing a range of analysis, including descriptive statistics, correlation analysis, affinity diagramming, triangulation, and more, we developed our user personas. There are so many different types of analysis that you can do without necessarily being an expert in data analysis. So we're just going to go over a couple of those on the presentation today. So first we have descriptive statistics. This involves summarizing and presenting the main features of your user data. So for example, how often different responses occur, how many users rate something as excellent, as good, as average, etc. We have correlation analysis, involves examining the relationship between different variables related to user characteristics, behaviors, and preferences. So this could be age and preferred communication methods. So looking at age compared to email, social media, phone, etc. Then affinity diagramming, which involves grouping similar ideas, behaviors, and characteristics together. This is patterns and themes that emerge across the data. So maybe looking at engagement preferences or values or desired impact. And then lastly, we have triangulation. So this involves using multiple sources of data or research methods to validate and corroborate insights that have been gathered. So looking at the patterns that emerged from qualitative and quantitative data and research from user interviews to your surveys to your website analytics. And then diving into our personas. So here we have an overview of the backend users we created, and I'll get into each one individually in a moment. So we discovered that a lot of challenges faced by the Planet 4 community members are not necessarily specific to a role, but more around their experience with Planet 4, their interest in customizing their site, their capacity levels, and more. So we decided to categorize our personas to better address needs related to these classifications. So we created 5 personas: an entry-level Planet 4 user, a low-capacity Planet 4 user, an advanced Planet 4 user, a Planet 4 customizer, and a non-native English speaker. And it's also possible that users could identify with several of these. And I do want to note that this is how user personas made most sense for us and our objectives. But if you are making user personas for yourself, maybe you decide to break them down further. It really just depends on what your objectives are. So starting here, we have our back end persona of our entry level Planet 4 user. So I am going to go through each of the personas. I will just read through them so you get a better idea of each, and then I will dive into what we're going to actually be doing with these. So again, this is our entry level Planet 4 user. I joined Greenpeace a few months ago, and I am supporting our local team for our website needs. I am not very familiar with WordPress, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can about that and Planet 4. Since I just started, I have some extra time to invest in training. I often check my emails in the Planet 4 Slack channels. I'm passionate about the work we do, and I hope to be working on Planet 4 for a while. My goals are to improve our SEO, improve performance and page conversion, and feel confident in all things Planet 4. Frustrated by feeling lost by all the custom features, not exactly sure where to go for help, and that it takes time to get a hang of everything. Wants and needs: need more collaboration from my NRO, wanting more innovation and more ways to learn from other NROs. Likes and interests is Instagram, Netflix, and gaming. And this just helps to get a better picture of who these personas are, and think of them as people. So moving on to the next one, we have our low capacity Planet 4 user. I have been with Greenpeace and part of the Planet 4 community for 4 years. I love Planet 4, but I just don't have the time to take it where I want it to go. I'm wearing a lot of hats and I'm juggling a lot of tasks. One of my roles is training my colleagues. Since there's not a lot of time, we often clone pages, and I don't have a lot of time to explore the updates and changes. My goals are to transition to the new information architecture, have better UX and UI on our site, and integrate and better use all of our digital tools. I'm frustrated by having too many competing deliverables. I would like a best practice guide to refer to, and I don't have enough capacity to make the changes I want. The wants and needs is more support, have more time-saving solutions in Planet 4, and again, something to refer to. And then my likes and interests include Spotify, cooking, and eating. Our next one is our advanced Planet 4 user. I have a background in WordPress, so Planet 4 is very easy for me to use. I have been with Greenpeace for over 3 years now, and I have been using Planet 4 since I started. I consider myself a pretty advanced user. If I can't find something, my go-to is the handbook. I really enjoy the Planet 4 community that has been built. I'd love to explore what else we can do with the future of our site. Goals: to bring in new audiences, especially youth, to provide users with more personalization, and to get more donations. My frustrations include bugs, as sometimes this takes a while to be fixed. I struggle to find the Planet 4 roadmap, and I have some challenges with some features, plugins, and embeds. Wants and needs: I want to be part of the Planet 4 Council again, faster response times where possible, and I'd like to learn more from the Planet 4 team. My likes and interests include hiking, movies, and books. Next, we have the Planet 4 Customizer. I'm a developer and I'm always looking for ways to improve our site. If there's something we want but it isn't available, I will create it. It's nice when it already exists, but I find some limitations in the current blocks. I consider myself an expert WordPress user. I would like to have a few more options with the blocks we currently have. It doesn't make a difference to me if something is a custom Planet 4 block or a WordPress native block. My goals are to have more customization options, to have more interactive content, and to be more mobile focused. My frustrations include wanting more design options as one size doesn't fit all, patterns and layouts not being customizable enough, and some features don't work right. Wants and needs to follow more Gen Z and youth trends, to develop more features and have more language options. My likes and interests include YouTube, running, and Reddit. And then lastly, for our backend personas, we have our non-native English speaker. I am part of the Planet 4 community, and I appreciate how inclusive my colleagues are at Greenpeace, especially because I am a non-native English speaker, and sometimes it takes me a little extra time to understand and convey my thoughts. I have to navigate language barriers daily. Often the features are designed in an English-centric way. I'd also like to have more options for multi-language sites. I also need some more guidance. My goals include offering a trilingual website, increasing brand exposure, and reaching more audiences. Frustrations include hard to understand the backend, technical terms difficult for me to convey, and some issues with blocks alignment and punctuation in other languages. My wants and needs, I would like Planet 4 to be more user-friendly. I need some guidance, some patience and understanding of my English. My likes and interests include yoga, painting, and dancing. So those were all of our backend personas that the Planet 4 team is going to be using. So for those of you who are on the call that are part of Planet 4, this question would be, what are we as the Planet 4 team going to do with these personas to support your experience using Planet 4? So first off, these have been shared across the Planet 4 team, and we aim to use these to support us in making decisions. So specifically, we plan to use user journey mapping. This is a visualization process where we take each persona through a problem or an issue and the path to reach that solution or goal. And this will help us understand how we can effectively address issues that the community is facing. So a large part of this is identifying relevant questions, issues, solutions. So for example, as you can see here, we have the entry-level user, and a question that may be relevant to address would be, would an onboarding tutorial in WordPress be useful? For the advanced Planet 4 user, how do we manage expectations of our advanced users versus our entry-level users? For our low capacity user, what features or tools can further streamline their process? And more. So if you have any ideas that come to your mind, please post them in the chat and I will take that back to our team as well. So next, we will move on to our front-end persona. So we have a front-end persona that we have classified as youth. So I will read this one as well. I am a politically and socially active Gen Z. I have already seen the direct impact of climate change on my health and well-being. We must act now to have a future. I'm engaged in climate activism and social and racial justice. I enjoy hanging out with my friends in person and virtually. I'm on my phone a lot, especially on social media. I deal with information overload and crisis fatigue, and I often have to take a break from social media when it becomes too much. My goal is to have a livable planet, no greenwashing, and meaningful engagement opportunities. Frustrated by the unequal distribution of resources and power, the exploitation of vulnerable communities, and the lack of inclusivity in large environmental organizations. I want and need real action by leaders, having basic social needs met, and sustainable and green practices. My likes and interests include TikTok, Discord, and Instagram. So next up, what can we do with this? To start off, you could already use this persona in your own design decision making, but we would also like to understand what other front-end personas we have at Planet 4. So since Planet 4 supports NROs from around the world in different countries, cultures, languages, our internal team cannot interview enough people alone to get a wide enough understanding of who Planet 4 front-end users are across the world. So for those of you who are on the call from Planet 4, this is where you could come in if you're interested. We are seeking support from NROs to conduct your own user interviews with your own users, and we would provide you with everything you would need to get this set up, including a detailed guide with interview questions. So you might wonder what is in it for you. If you take part, you will have the opportunity to gain insights into your audience preferences, behaviors, and pain points, some ideas to improve your website for further user satisfaction and engagement, an opportunity to validate assumptions and pinpoint areas for improvement, and help to expand the user pool for refining front-end personas, further guiding Planet for enhancements. If you would like to learn more, I will share a couple different things in the chat. So this first one is a document. And the second one is a presentation, just gives a little more information on that. And then I have one last one, which this is a form. So if you think you or your NRO may be potentially interested, you're not entirely sure yet, but it sounds like something you might want to do, please fill this out just so we can gauge what kind of interest we have. And you're not bound to do the project at all by submitting this. This just helps our team know. So once you have user personas for your NRO, you might be wondering, how would I actually go about using these? So for a few examples, maybe you plan to cater the donation experience to a particular user based on what you know they are interested in. Or maybe you identify one of your target users as someone who's super busy, they barely have any time to spend on the site. So you could approach that project by identifying ways in which you could cater to someone who wants to get the most out of the site in the shortest amount of time. There's lots of different ideas and outcomes that are possible. So next up, we are going to be talking about our life-centered persona, our non-human user persona. So by giving water a voice, we can recognize water as a user being connected to Planet 4. We chose water in relation to its connection to our data usage. And I'll read through this persona, but in a moment, I'll share the audio we did for this persona. Audio personas, especially as it relates to non-human personas, allows us to connect more with these otherwise voiceless personas. So I put this in a visual as well, just so you can see how this connects to the other personas, but you'll see it as an audio in a minute. And you don't have to be limited to a visual or to audio. You can do these in whatever way makes most sense to you. It could be a video, could be audio, could be visual. So really whatever makes most sense to your objectives. So I'll read this one as well. I'm water and I'm essential for life on Earth. Civilization was built on the use of me. I cover 70% of the world with about 2% drinkable water. I am very stressed out. I am being polluted, contaminated, and mismanaged. My wetlands are drying up, and things are just not the same. There is an increasing demand for me, but I often remain in the hands of the rich and powerful. I'll survive one way or another, but I can't provide for you without your help. Goals: to restore water-related ecosystems, to increase water use efficiency, and to use me responsibly. Frustrations: the unequal distribution of me. My water table is drying up, and 1 billion people live without access to my clean drinking water. Wants and needs: to provide for all life on Earth, to distribute me fairly, and to stop polluting me. My likes and interests: hydrogen, water, power, and the Earth. So in the next slide, feel free to turn off your video if you'd like and just listen in. This is about a 3-minute video, and this is water speaking. If you have any issues with audio, please let me know. I will turn off my video as well, and I will start playing this.
I am water. I have a history dating back to the very beginnings of our planet. I sustain life, and life lives within me. I am powerful. I can move mountains, store energy, and dissolve nutrients. I am the ocean, the rivers, the lakes, the ponds, the puddles, the glacial ice, the snowfall, and more than 60% of you. While I am essential for life, I do not need you as you need me. Since 1950, global water use has nearly tripled, and while the amount of water we have on Earth today is about the same as it was over 5 billion years ago, some things have changed. Climate change, deforestation, agriculture, industry, over-extraction, development, increased demand, and more threaten my supply of usable and accessible water. And while the Earth may never run out of me, my freshwater supply may run out for you. While I'll exist in one form or another, how you use me and what you do to me have impacts on you and the animals, the plants, and all other life around you that depend on me. I am being polluted, mismanaged, and distributed unequally. The UN warns that 2/3 of the global population will be under water stress by 2025. While there are so many different reasons for and intricacies related to the water crisis, the crisis of me, today I want to focus on one particular issue: how I am being used to store your data. Humans often forget that their photos, their ebooks, and every website they visit exist in reality, in large data centers. My friends, the fossil fuels, are extracted and burned to keep these data centers running, which is a whole other issue. But they also need me to help them run and keep them cool 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Billions of gallons and liters of me are used every year in these data centers. In one day alone, in just one large data center, they use the same amount of me that could have met the daily water consumption of a town of 50,000 people. Many large companies place their data centers in areas where I am already stressed. This has a particularly big impact on small and rural towns. On top of this, my potable water, also known as drinkable water, is often used for this. These large companies also fight to keep their use of me private. I urge you to think about me in a different light, and about your data use and what's connected to that. Many people are thinking about innovative solutions, so I hope that in the future, I won't be used like this anymore.
All right, so that was our audio persona of the water. So what can we do with this? So using the connection we've made to data usage, we plan to do a project on sustainable web design. So this would include identifying where and how our data is stored, what our data carbon footprint is, and what improvements we can make, design and otherwise, to reduce our data usage, in turn reducing our water usage and any other impacts that this has on life around us. And lastly, using user personas for engagement. So I have a couple examples here. There are several different things that you can do with user personas, but these are just four that I wanted to highlight. So user personas, by and large, can improve the UX and UI of your site. Understanding the pain points and goals of your users is important for designing intuitive and user-friendly interfaces that enhance the overall user experience, encouraging and allowing users to interact and engage more. Can also be used for personalized content creation. So by understanding the preferences, behaviors, and needs of different personas, you can create content that resonates more deeply with each group, both in terms of what the content is and also how you deliver this content. Number three, user journey mapping. Personas help in mapping out the user journey by highlighting the touch points and interactions that are most significant for different user groups. So this understanding allows you to optimize these touch points to keep users engaged throughout the journey. Then we have targeted marketing. Personas can aid in creating targeted marketing that speaks directly to the values and interests of your specific audiences. So again, lots of different things that you can do with these that can all increase engagement for your NRO. And then lastly, I just want to summarize everything that has been discussed today. So designing with user personas offers a structured approach to understanding your target audience's needs, behaviors, and motivations. By creating fictional representations based on research and analysis, we can make informed design decisions, mitigate assumptions, and align teams more effectively. While user personas have some limitations, supplementing them with qualitative and quantitative research methods helps to enhance their accuracy. Our user persona project for Planet 4 involved creating personas for the back end, for the front end, and for our non-human personas. And we employed a life-centered design approach. These personas serve as a valuable tool for decision making and user-centered design. And moving forward, we aim to leverage these personas for user journey mapping and ongoing improvements to Planet 4. And additionally, as we talked about, we invite collaboration from NROs to conduct these user interviews and help us to refine our user personas for you further. And the last thing that I want to mention is that the Planet 4 team is working on creating a user testing guide. So this will be specific to the information architecture project, but it's also just going to have general information on how you conduct a survey, how you conduct user interviews, website analytics, etc. So stay tuned for that. I think that that will be really useful and helpful for NROs wanting to do some user testing and could also play into your user persona project if you wish to do one.